We'll call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I'm going to invite our Eagle Scout candidate up to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll, please.
Trustee Percoli?
Here.
Trustee Myson?
Here.
Trustee Bellinger? Here. Trustee Buskowski? Here. Trustee Pridemore?
Here.
Trustee Heschek?
Here.
Attorney Dita?
Here.
Treasurer Razik?
Here.
President Dilbert?
Here. Approval of agenda.
We could add the new business, just a quick code enforcement update.
And can I assume that everyone received a copy of the revised agenda?
Yes.
Mr. Dilbert, can we add to, I guess it would be under unfinished business, an RFP for the Clark Street property?
Did you say under,
Under unfinished business?
Any others?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Been properly moved and supported that we approve the agenda as amended. Questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comment on agenda. Being none. Approval of minutes of April 9th.
I have some amendments to make to it. President, item C, for Dixon Engineering, the motion was to enter an agreement in amount up to $25,221.15. And the amount is on the minutes. President, items E and F, the motions for the ordinances were to adopt ordinance 362 and 363. And President, items I, there was actually two motions there, one by me, seconded by Trustee Myson, to appoint Craig Sims, and then there was a second motion by Trustee Pridemore to appoint Tim Jacobs to the ZBA, seconded by Trustee Myson. And President, item M, there was an amount for $15,324 in the motion for the MML Workers' Compensation Fund. And in Article 16, there was two motions, one to go into closed session and one to come out of closed session. That's all.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended.
For,
Been moved and supported that we approve the minutes as amended. Madam Clerk will make sure that there's revised minutes sent out. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
support.
Been moved and supported that we accept the consent agenda as presented. Questions on the motion? Roll, please.
Trustee Myson?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger, Trustee Pomakowski.
Yes.
Trustee Malinger.
Yes.
Trustee Pacoli.
Yes.
Trustee Pridemore.
Yes.
Trustee Heischig.
Yes.
President Dilbert.
Yes. Motion carries. At this time, we're going to take a minute and we're going to present to this board and to the audience another young man from our Boy Scout troop who has achieved the rank of Eagle Scout. John, would you come up? So we're going to face the camera there. See how photogenic you are. We have a resolution. Whereas on behalf of the Village of New Haven, wish to recognize the attainment of high honor by one of the young citizens of Macomb County. And whereas John Gilmary Fahey has demonstrated strong leadership abilities and has exhibited a strong sense of duty, honor, and patriotism, making him a clear example of the best qualities of American youth. And whereas John, how do you say his name? Gilmary Fahey has completed the arduous and demanding requirements necessary to be awarded the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest honor given by the Boy Scouts of America. Be it resolved, and it is hereby is that the Village of New Haven recognize and congratulate John Fahey upon his attainment of the rank of Eagle Scout. This resolution, I'm a little ahead of myself, will be adopted by this board on the 14th day of May, 2019. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think I'll take my glasses off. Congratulations. And I'd like you to just go around the table and just introduce yourself to the board members. Up front here, John. Just
Tell us what your final project was.
Refurbishment and talk to us.
Very nice. Good job.
John is the second member of Troop 911 in the last 2 months to attain this ranking, and we have, I think, one more coming down the pipe that should be completed within the near future. So for Troop 911, which is sponsored by the fire department, to have 3 Eagle Scouts is, I think, a pretty high achievement. Yes, now we need to adopt the resolution.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution 19-006, honoring Eagle Scout John Gilmary Fahey.
Second.
Been properly moved and supported that we adopt resolution number 19-006, honoring John Gilmary Fahey. Any questions on the motion?
I just have a comment, based on what you just said about 3 young men out of that troop. It speaks volumes about their leadership, so I'm not sure who your leader is, but
He's over there.
kudos to
Stand up. Don't be bad.
If I may say, many thank you to the fire department and the chief for supporting the Boy Scouts. Thank you. Thank you all.
Question on the motion. Roll, please.
Trustee Meissen.
Absolutely.
Trustee Pacoli.
Yes.
Trustee Trustee Bellinger? Yes. Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Pridemore?
Yep.
Trustee Hatchett?
Yes.
President Dilbert?
Yes. Now it's official. Next, we're gonna recognize a fireman, Les Pettigrew.
That's it.
And I'll let the chief explain what's going on here.
I'll try to make it short, but who knows. About a year and a half ago, Les came to us and wanted to join the fire department, wanted to serve the community. He came to us with, he's lived here for about 12 years. And just so you know, he is also a Eagle Scout. He has also attained that. He came to us with a background in EMS, a background in active duty military. He also serves in the National Guard. Some of his bosses from the National Guard are here to honor him tonight, or to be here with him. He's involved in scouting still. And he has, this is the important part, he has completed all his requirements for his probationary period, which was a year. He has all the training that, he has passed all the training that is necessary. So tonight, a little thing we started a few years ago is we like to bring him in front of the public. And we'd like his wife Nicole to come up, please. And after he is sworn in by the clerk, she is going to present the
Chief gave me permission.
Yes, if there's any bleeding, we'll take care of it, don't worry about it. But it's just something that we want to recognize, the fact that he wants to serve the community, and we're very honored to have him, so. Please do.
I'm right here.
Oh. She's yours.
Am I looking at me? Better, close to personal, or less. Okay. I, Les Pettigrew,
I, Les Pettigrew,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold and support the Constitution
that I will solemnly uphold the Constitution
and bylaws of the New Haven Fire Department,
and bylaws of the New Haven Fire Department,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and the United States of America,
and the United States of America.
and that I will fulfill the duties of my office
I will fulfill the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, congratulations.
Stick him good, Nicole.
Stick
him.
We've been very lucky, we haven't drawn any blood.
Stick 'em.
Those are his kids.
If you don't mind, I'd like just another minute. Can I have those two bosses from the National Guard up here too, please?
Okay.
You guys,
And the kids. Then we'll be done, I should let go of your business. We just want a picture of all of them. Like I said, we're very honored to have you, and we appreciate your time. We appreciate your time. I'd like to add just one more thing, and then I promise I'll shut up. You mentioned about the Eagle Scouts, and we're very proud that our scouts have achieved this. Only 70% of all the scouts achieve Eagle Scout. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of dedication, and we're just very proud of it. And I just want to pass that on. Thank you.
I certainly wish we could continue on this feel-good moment. But unfortunately, we gotta conduct some business also. But feel free to stick around and see how we conduct our business. Item C, Haven Ridge lot combinations. The property that the village owned on Haven Ridge was 2 parcels. And when the original sale took place back in early 90s, some paperwork was not properly filed. And then, of course, years later, the village obtained the property through a demolition. And because this paperwork wasn't properly filed back in the early 90s, no title company would give clear title to the property. So fortunately, Mr. Addis's office was able to track down the original owner, who I think is 94 years old, living in Roseville. They sent her a package of information. She signed it, had it notarized, and sent it back. So that being said, because those two parcels were unbuildable individually, we've gone through the process of combining them. They've been surveyed, they've been assigned a new parcel ID number, and now it's one buildable parcel. So, Jeff Schrader, our planner, has looked over the documents, and somewhere in this packet is a letter of recommendation approving this, and so it just takes council's approval to make this happen, and then the building department will send all the information to the township so that it can be properly taxed and listed and all those things.
And President Gilbert, these two properties are owned by the village?
Yes, they were, yes.
And you're gonna remain residential?
I'm sorry.
The lots remain residential?
Yes, I think the
Residential.
current zoning is,
Residential too, or something?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's too.
Make a motion to approve the lot combination for the two properties on Haven Ridge. Do you need the addresses as part of that? Addresses 59289 and 59269 Haven Ridge Road.
Second.
Been properly moved and supported that we approve the lot combination of the two parcels on Haven Ridge. Any questions on the motion? Roll, please.
Trustee Meissen,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Hatchett,
Yes.
trustee Primo,
Yes.
trustee Pankowski,
Yes.
trustee Bellinger,
Yes.
President Gilbert.
Yes. Street rehab. Were you going to speak on that, sir? Sure.
Good evening. We have almost finished with the plans, the construction plans for the 4 streets that we've been working on last month. They're at 95% complete. Now we're at the specs of about 80%. We should be done with them and ready for advertising within 7 to 10 days. So we should have, the plan is to have bids for council next month.
Hopefully these bids will come in reasonable, but with the climate out there right now, where everyone is
Everyone's busy. I've talked to the 2 contractors that said they're almost at capacity, but these are not large projects, so hopefully we still get good bids.
okay.
So what's the action?
No, there's no action until the actual bids come in.
I have one quick question for the engineer.
Yes, ma'am.
Just one. I had a resident on Ann Street reach out to me. She said that she paid for the approach at the bottom of her driveway going out to the street. And she was concerned that during the reconstruction on Ann Street, her approach might be damaged. Does the village, if the approach is damaged, does the village like repair it, any damage that's done, or?
Well, for Ann, we have a different plan.
Okay.
We're going to remove up to and include the sidewalk. And when we're going to create new approaches to create parallel parking for those residents.
Okay, great. So then if she
Yeah.
might get it replaced.
Yes.
Yeah, she should have
They'll
helped.
be shorter, but they will have the parallel parking added.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if I may, just for information, before we undertake a project similar, say, the Clark Street project, we actually videotape up and down the road so that I can see what your property looks like, and I can see what your property looks like. So when we're done, we want to make sure that it looks like that.
Standard practice.
Standard practice.
President Dort, I don't know if it falls under Surmet, but we had the, in our council packet, there was something about the railroad, and I don't see it on the,
Agenda, yeah.
yeah, on the agenda. I didn't know if that was for the engineer,
Yeah,
or if it
no.
was separate, or,
That's something different.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, sorry.
I have an answer from around here. It's an approved bill, it's an approved bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a bill that we pay annually to the railroad for maintaining the crossings.
But it's in an approved bill schedule, so we're covered.
We pay them to maintain their crossings.
Yeah, that's, discussion for another day.
That's the way the law is written.
Thank you.
DPW full-time, DPW employee, full-time. We have a part-time employee who's been part-time for
5 to 6 years.
and he has been working side by side with the full-time employees for 5 years, doing all the things that full-time employees do. He has a CPL, he plows snow, he cuts grass, he digs drains, he fixes water main breaks, he does all those things. And I think it's time that he is promoted to full-time status. If you have any questions, we put this in the budget, we actually put it in the budget last year. And somehow we forgot about it. It creates no hardship, no burden, no nothing on our funds. And the fact of the matter that most of the DPW, I say most, but I don't know what the actual percentage is, they're paid with Act 51 money. So I think it's time that we reward this employee by making them full-time.
In terms of cost, it says here that he's working on average 34.6, so really we're only talking about an additional 5 hours a week.
Yes, but it's a boost in pay.
Boosting pay and benefits.
Yes. Yes. And the one thing that, and I'm just gonna put this out there because it exists, is that we were currently only paying him $10 an hour, and we decided to hire summer part-timers at $12 an hour, with a slap in the face. It's time that we put this young man where he probably should have been a couple years ago, but I'm sure he'll be quite happy to go to full-time right now.
On that note, do we have any other DPW workers that are at the $10 an hour rate?
No,
Okay.
no,
So you need a motion for this then?
yes.
I make a motion that we approve the hiring of the part-time worker promotion to a full-time status.
Second.
It's been properly moved and supported that we promote our part-time DPW employee to full-time status. And of course, he will now go through his
Probation.
one-year probation according to the contract.
If I could just make a statement. I want to thank Superintendent Dilbert for everything that they do with the DPW. I think that our village is really lucky to have such a great DPW that services our community when it comes to plowing the roads, responding to any and all matters that happen. We have had a couple of instances in the Core Park. I reach out to Marcus. I actually apologize to him. It seems like daily because I'm always bugging him. But the DPW is extremely responsive. even coming to one of our neighbors' houses at 9 o'clock at night to turn on a water valve that somehow mysteriously was turned off on its own. So just wanted to say thank you and really appreciate all the support that the DPW does.
Did you get those stop signs up on,
Yes, I did.
okay.
Yes, thank you for that as well. All of the residents really appreciate that.
Any other questions on the motion? Roll, please.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Burkholz?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Pridemore?
Yes.
Trustee Hatchett?
Yes.
President Silver?
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't know if the catch basins or something was next.
Oh, no, you,
Crosswalk.
sorry, we'll just have you walk back.
All right.
Good part.
The Haven Place crosswalk. We only received one bid for that project. And the amount was $21,265. And I'm going to go on record as opposing that crosswalk. And I say that because while crossing Main Street at times, at certain times of the day can be challenging. The fact of the matter is this crosswalk is only used during warm weather months, would only be used during warm weather months, and maybe once or twice a week during those months. And I just can't justify spending that much money on a crosswalk. But I have talked to the DPW, and we are going to see if there's some slow signs that we can mount near Ann Street and Division Street to just alert traffic that there could be some people trying to cross there. And, Main Street is only 25 miles per hour in that area anyways. So it should be slow, and we'll get these signs mounted, and we'll inform the sheriff department to spend some time in that area after these signs are mounted, just to make people aware that, you need to slow down during this section.
Are there crosswalk markings in the pavement?
No,
Can we do
no.
that?
We are going to take a look at that. We're going to contact MDOT. There are certain restrictions that we gotta, so we're going to see what we can, because if we can put some markings, some reflective markings, that may, help us.
Yeah, and tell people to cross at that point.
Yes.
What fund would this amount come out of?
It could come out of Act 51 money. We did contact the state right, Sandy? Yes. We did contact the state, and it is eligible for Act 51 money. But there's also, and I'm going to contact John and Tina, because there are grants out there, with Haven Place being a nonprofit, there are grants out there that they could be eligible for, because they're a nonprofit. And with that being said, the fact that we turned back in $13,000 in CDBG funding, it's my understanding that this project could have qualified for that money. So, but knowing that, if we have some money left over next year, then we could apply that.
So this is something that if we postpone a year, could not affect any of our budgets if we get it on the CBD.
Right.
Between that or grants.
Yeah,
Sorry.
imagine that.
Between that or if they could get like a
Yeah.
matching grant or something.
Because there are some grants out there, I've been looking, and I'm gonna turn them onto the websites and, you know, see if they pursue them.
Make a motion that we table this until next year then? Or do we just indefinitely or nothing?
Just table it indefinitely.
Second.
Been probably moved and supported that we table the Haven Place crosswalk indefinitely. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item G, catch basins. We had gotten approval from council to do some catch basins reconstruction, and these were just the typical $1,500–1,600 each. I think they did 3 in the,
3 on Amherst Ave and 1 on Marville and 1 on Cynthia.
one on Cynthia, and I think there's half a dozen more still on the list, but we have 2 that fall outside that $1,500–1,600, and that's why they're here tonight.
Then we have 2 for full reconstruction. One of them is on the Boss Court, and the going price is $4,200 for a full reconstruction. That is total failure, collapse totally, just rubbish. Also, at the Clark Street entrance, cemetery entrance, that one is for full reconstruction also. And that one is for $4,900.
Where was the first one located?
The Boss.
Oh, Tulsa.
Yes. And these are complete failures. These catch basins are done. But I had D&J contact me with any flow replacements so we can get them approved before we move on.
What streets were they on?
The Boss,
DeVos and Lutz.
Clark.
I'm sorry, the corner of DeVos and Lutz.
Yes,
And then the cemetery entrance off Clark Street.
Yes.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the expenditure of $4,200 for 31509 DeVos, total replacement of the catch basin, and the cemetery entrance in the amount of $4,900.
Support.
Been properly moved and supported that we approve these 2 reconstruction of the 2 catch basins on Clark and at the Boss Court. Any questions on the motion? And as we stated in the past, these are being paid for through the Highway Improvement Fund. I think it's in the payment of bill, but I don't. Any questions on the motion?
So this will be an amount not to exceed 9,100 total then?
That's what the estimate is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dave, go back.
Questions on the motion? Roll, please.
Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Pymore?
Yes.
Trustee Hatchett?
Yes.
Trustee Pacoli?
Yes.
President Diller?
Yes. Hope that, you know, as we drive through these various subdivisions, feel free to take a look at the quality of the work that's being done. I do, and so far I say I'm quite happy. They've been, you know, able to get in, tear apart, and I think they've been having what, a week?
Yes. We turn around with the rain.
Yeah. And it was fortunate that, you know, I think there was 3 in Amherst, so they could do all 3 at one time. You know, not come back. You know. It was 2 in Russell. Huh?
You didn't even know they were there.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no mask, nothing.
Right.
Just very
Yeah.
professional.
You know, they're definitely doing a good job. So, okay.
Do we need to approve the ones that they just did? Oh, that's already approved.
No, that's part of the bill.
Also, just to bring you up to date, the next ones are going to be on Brockton. We're moving down the street. It's another one to complete. Then Arlington has one. Pembroke has an entrance and the exit bases that are going to be done. And one on Chanot. That'll be the next 5 that will be complete.
Okay, Sandy was shaking her head like one of those bobbleheads.
We need to approve of an $8,900 invoice that we left on the council chambers there. That was the ones that were done. They
That wasn't
didn't-
there,
That's the only thing that did not make an approval of bills.
it didn't make it part of the bill.
That's why I just got it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are those going to be partial or full?
These should be partial, yes. These new ones should be partial. But as soon as they like take off the base and lids, they'll get in there. But yeah, these should be partial. A lot of them, like the top ring, the mortar is gone. So that's why
You're going to make a motion to approve it?
I'm sorry.
You're going to make a motion to approve it?
I'm going to amend my,
Okay, so a motion's been made, right?
yes, so I'm going to, as Mr. Neeson, I'm going to make a friendly amendment to my original motion to include, to pay this invoice for $8,900
For the ones that
for
have
the
been
ones
done.
that have been done already.
Equally supported.
And anyone that, any basin that requires full reconstruction, we will bring back because they exceed that look. And we lost somebody.
That one? She's small. Look at her. She's small.
Okay. We'll just hesitate for a minute. Pause.
While we're waiting, so you mentioned Brockton, Arlington, what were the other ones?
Pembroke, the entrance and the exit to both of them. And then there's one on Chanot. Chanot and I think that's like right on the corner.
And then the Pembroke account has 2 for
Yes.
one entrance, one exit, so that's the 5.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Hopefully with this, you know, with these repairs, we'll slow down the streets deteriorate and get that wash out and the water not making it into the basin and you start washing out the dirt up under the roads and
Different subject, real quick, the water tower.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any, did we do any repairs on it or updates?
No, the repair that we did was that emergency repair, that was months ago.
Okay,
Yes,
but was
but-
someone else going to take a look at that?
Yes, that, we approved up to 25.
$25,000
Yes.
for Dixon Engineering.
Yeah, they're doing the whole analysis and everything on a total,
So they're doing that?
yes.
And that's not scheduled until when, June, July?
June, July, yes. And that'll come back. Yes, they're gonna do a 100% inspection, everything. Fire protection inspection, everything.
They had given us,
Who else could do that?
they had given us a preliminary opinion of our water tower and they consider it to be in good shape. Yeah. As long as we stay on top of our inspections and our, you know, just annual repairs, and I think they're just 5 years.
Cool.
I don't have her information on her title.
It was awesome.
I think we're gonna move on.
I think we have this posted.
So we call for
There's a motion? Sure. Questions on the
the.
motion?
Questions,
Roll, please.
Okay. Trustee Pankowski,
Yes.
trustee Meissen,
Yes.
trustee Foley,
Yes.
trustee Pridemore,
Yes.
trustee Hatchett,
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you call me?
well, I can, you want me to wait for Bellinger?
No, just call me and just make a note in your minutes that she had to step out.
Okay. President Dilbert,
Yes. Motion carried. Item H, planning appointment. We've posted and look for planning commissioners. We still have one vacancy. Yes. One, okay. And I have one applicant, and I would like to appoint Lucille Dilbert. She's my sister-in-law, so there's no secret there. She's been my sister-in-law for a long time. To the planning commission. And I don't have in front of me what her term would be. Because she would be taking Kyle Kaplan's, no, Mary Ann's. I think it's Mary Ann's. Yeah, but Mary Ann, she should only have a couple years left.
No, I think her term was expired in March 31st.
We'll take a look at it. So I would like to recommend Lucy Dilbert to the planning commission.
Make a motion that we appoint Lucy Dilbert to the planning commission.
Support.
Properly moved and supported that Lucille Dilbert be appointed to the planning commission. Any questions on the motion? Roll, please.
trustee Meissen,
Yep.
trustee Pankowski,
Yes.
trustee Foley,
Yes.
trustee Bellinger,
Yes.
trustee Pridemore,
Yep.
trustee Hatchett,
Yes.
president Dilbert,
Yes.
trustee Bellinger.
That begins.
Sorry.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Item I, Memorial Day Parade. Which is going to be the 27th of May. I think the lineup starts at 8 o'clock in the morning by the food pantry. Parade starts at 9, proceeds north up Haven Ridge, west on Clark, into the cemetery. That's it for me. Mr. Addis. Ordinance 360, the village manager.
I was asked, excuse me, in the last meeting to provide to this council, we have by email and others, a number of ordinances around the state, of manager ordinances. I have reviewed them. I think the council should take time to review them all. If you want an ordinance and you want to do changes to what we propose, we're open for any suggestions. In the end, it's whatever ordinance you people are comfortable with approving. I still say, and I give credit to Sean at my office, that the ordinance we put together is probably the most up-to-date one, because we've looked at Attorney General opinions, we've looked at the latest opinions in the courts of appeals, and in those opinions, that we have found that village ordinance law has evolved, and we think that our ordinance that we propose is pretty good. On the other hand, we're not perfect. If there's things you want in or want out, that's always a matter of majority vote, but we'll put into a proposed ordinance whatever the board wants to put in.
So I have a couple of questions/comments. I appreciate that you included the three example ordinances because it kind of gave us a baseline or a sense check based off of what we have. And I definitely agree that it looks like the ordinance that Sean put together for us, that Sean and you both put together, looks pretty robust. There's a lot of references to different municipal ordinances and state laws and whatnot. Some feedback that I had, and this is my own personal opinion. I guess I would be asking the rest of the council how they feel. Some of the things that I noticed, for example, section 4 with acting village manager, and all of the other example ordinances, I believe, or at least 2 of the 3, that says that the president with kind of a quorum of council may designate an acting manager. Whereas our ordinance does not. So it would effectively allow the president to designate an acting manager without consent of council in times of a vacancy. Personally, I would rather see the verbiage added so that it would be with a quorum of council, so that it would not be just, well, I'm sure, not a reflection of our current president, but, we never know who might be president later. Yeah.
I understand that. Let me just give you an answer why we chose that wording. In most instances, once a village becomes a village with a manager, the manager does a lot of day-to-day stuff. And normally a village manager vacancy comes about by either illness, death, or they pick up and leave. And it is at that point that a substitute being appointed, obviously it's just temporary, if the board wants to replace him or her. So in the end, the board will decide who the replacement will be. It's an interim spot, and for convenience and to continue on with the everyday business of the village, that's why we said the president could appoint. Because the vacancy is normally temporary, that's why we use that. I don't have a preference one way or another, but that's the normal history of vacancies on village managers. They accept a job somewhere else, and they often don't give you a lot of notice. So that thing just stays open. If you want to, I don't know if you want to call an emergency meeting, we could use that language and do it. And if that case becomes true, we could put in an emergency meeting language. We could put in whatever language you'd like. But in practice, what we've been told is that you put somebody there. Normally, it's somebody right inside the village offices who are used to the day-to-day operation and say, okay, you're the village manager till the next meeting, and then we're going to pick a village manager.
That time limit is mentioned in the ordinance, and that's what I think kind of concerns me. I would rather the ordinance reflect language that's common in most of the ordinances.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I've reviewed 15+ ordinances from other communities that establish the manager position in cities, townships, and villages. All of them basically have the same language. And that the village president, with the concurrence of, I believe this is 4 more trustees, shall appoint. And we can certainly call, you've called emergency meetings before, we've had to, so, I'd rather include the language going forward. So.
Yeah, I would agree, especially because, we're putting this ordinance together with the thought of putting it in place, but not necessarily acting on appointing or hiring a village manager immediately. So effectively, we're putting this ordinance in place with an immediate vacancy with no time limit or plan to fill it. So if we don't fill it and, the whole council changes, including President Dilbert, and somebody else comes in, they could come in and the ordinance is written that way, they can appoint somebody immediately.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that we will propose new language in that paragraph 4 in accordance with that, and then when it comes time to pass an ordinance, you can decide whether that's appropriate. That's fair enough?
Sure.
And also in section 4, it also has the verbiage about acting manager from the date of the appointment until the appointee becomes a resident of the village of New Haven. And I think that we had agreed to remove any references of needing to be a resident.
I mean, I was on record before, and I guess I'll say it again. I really don't feel that we need if we don't have any plans on filling a village manager position, to even have the ordinance in place to begin with. If we're ever in the future where we need a village manager to go through the process, that we can implement an ordinance then, that's already tailor fit to what we need at that time.
So to hire a manager would be a delay of how long before we approve an ordinance? If you have the tool in the toolbox, it's ready to use.
Well, I mean, it won't be an apples to apples comparison, but it would be the same thing as if I put forth a medical marijuana ordinance, but we won't give any licenses until everything is squared away. I mean, it's the same thing.
The tool would be in the toolbox.
So you'd be on board with that?
I would be on board with having the appropriate tools in the toolbox.
Right.
I had a question on appointment of village manager. Section 3, second paragraph, it says, "The elected village president shall not be disqualified from the village manager position." If you were referencing maybe the Howard City case, would it be better if that language said, "Any elected official or public employee shall not be disqualified"?
It's based on this. Cases arise based on things that really happen, okay? And in the case that we looked at, it was a village president, and the court's ruling was limited, in my understanding, to village president. I have no problem if this board wants to make it any elected official, okay?
Isn't that the language in the Attorney General's opinion?
I don't think, I think that the case that we looked at, now it's been a while,
It's the Howard City case.
I'm not sure it is, but if it is, it is. I almost am convinced that the opinion, the final opinion, said village president, but I also agree that if you read the cases, it could be anybody. But I think the facts that gave rise to that was a village president. But if anybody, I have no problem making anybody eligible. If that's, I mean, that's no
Yeah.
problem to me.
The Incompatible Public Offices Act, and it's about the subordination of one. And then General Village Law Act, General of the GOV. It was Howard City, an FYI. But I thought the IPOA said to authorize a public officer or a public employee to perform with or without compensation other additional services for the local unit of government. So it doesn't narrow the focus down to one position.
But this wouldn't be without compensation, that's the difference.
Right. With or, it says with or without
Okay,
compensation.
so with compensation, the one case that I think we saw with compensation was a village president. And that's the only reason. I do not disagree that you can make it whatever you want to make it.
Yeah.
FYI, currently the village president, Romeo, she serves as the village manager. And she's compensated accordingly.
That's good. I mean, if you get the right education, the right affiliations, I mean, bachelor's in municipal management, member of the ICMA, good for her.
All you need is a degree in common sense. Be a good manager.
Well, I think that depends on how their requirements are. So, but yeah, if we could change that just to, if we're going to include that at all.
I can propose a number of changes that could change that from village manager to any elected village official. Or all that really says is that the village president is not excluded. Because that would be the rulings that we read.
But the interpretation could be that other people are excluded. So,
It's not my interpretation, but
somebody might, I don't know.
well,
If just put public, the position of village president is covered under elected official or public employee. It's all included in there. And it would reflect the language in the IPOA. They have so many rules in this one rule.
oh, it's just ridiculous.
Oh,
That's
there's
why I
like
said.
3 different things
That's
in
why
there.
we tried to update it as much as we could. There
Yeah.
had been so much movement in this area. But the wording, I can have us try to do some other wording, give some other selections of other words. But I know there's a case that says, and there's decisions that say a village manager is not excluded, and Romeo is now an example of that, which I was unaware of till you just told me. And I did not mean to say, and I don't think it says, that others aren't.
in the village of Romeo, the way the title is administrator. The current president is the administrator. And they have operated under that for 30 years. One of their elected officials has been the administrator. For 28 years, the clerk was the administrator. The last 2 years, either the clerk or the treasurer, because the previous clerk retired, either the clerk or the treasurer served as the administrator. And now the current president serves as the administrator.
Is there a difference between administrator and manager, or is that the kind of same
Title.
thing? Same title?
Title.
Just a title. You can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say it's also the level of authority too, though.
Well, as long as, you're gonna spell out the level of authority.
Oh, yes.
In the
Yes.
final,
Right.
in the final law, you'll spell out what the level of authority is.
But the administrator is responsible for the day-to-day operation of,
Administrator and the manager, whichever one.
So in those municipalities, the president and the manager is collecting two salaries for doing the same task they were doing before?
Not
No.
necessarily.
No, not necessarily. I mean, if I only did what state law requires me to do as president, then that's all I'm compensated for. But if you ask me to do something outside of that scope, say as the administrator, then I got a different set of duties as the administrator.
I'm applying that to New Haven.
Well, yeah, I mean, like say this ordinance, say the village manager ordinance, if you ask me to work within the scope of this ordinance, then I'm being compensated as the village manager or the administrator. Okay, above and beyond what I would normally do as just the village president.
Because then you're talking about it being a full-time job instead of it just being, well, not to say that what you're doing right now isn't a full-time job, but it's unofficial.
Well, let me just add that the difference would become, once you start to get a salary for that position of administrator, then your ordinance or your rules spell out, instead of, how many days a week is the person to be in the office, how many hours a week is that person to perform those duties, at what time do they come in, what time, how much do they get for lunch, when do they get to leave? Now, it doesn't have to be that strict, but you can require substantially more than you can require of any elected official, whether you're on the board or president or whatever. So that's I guess that's the difference.
Okay, also on the appointment of the village manager, and again, if you could just format this and bring it back and we can review it, we got time. It said, the manager will serve at the will and pleasure of the council under the direction and supervision of the president. And again, in the multiple ordinances I reviewed, the manager is the chief administrator of the community, not under the direct supervision of a mayor, township supervisor, or village president. So we'd like to have that.
Well,
Any reference
it's my
to-
opinion.
Okay,
Those
fine.
ordinances, that's what I'm paid to do.
Yeah.
I think those ordinances are wrongly written, because a village president has, by the Village Act, certain duties. It is a different animal than a supervisor of a township, or a mayor, or an honorable mayor, or an honorary mayor of the city. A village president is a village president because he has certain, or she has certain decision-making authority. If you take a manager position and put them to serve as they are the decision maker, they are the moving party, they are the person, you have a non-elected official acting in a political sphere that I don't think the people voted on. So I'll do whatever the board wants, but my suggestion is that a manager should not be an unelected carte blanche leader of a community. I think they have to
Approval by
answer
the council.
on a daily basis. I think he has to answer, or she has to answer, to the president, whose authority is pretty well spelled out in the act. Now, that's just my opinion. You'll vote on what you vote on, and I can give you that language, because it's why I've seen it in the other ones. And I agree that Mr. Dilbert is not gonna be here forever. He may want to be, but that doesn't work out that way in the real world. And so it's not aimed at him, but a village president is a position that has some more authority than other municipal things. If you're going to take a manager in a village and be able to answer once a month to the board, I'm not sure on a day-to-day basis that's the best idea. That's the reason we wrote it the way we did. But we can write it the other way. That's why we gave you these things. We know they're there.
And thank you for the other samples from the other communities. I had read Decatur, but I didn't see the others.
And there's more coming every day.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Were there any other recommended changes, everybody, except you? You got that evil grin on your face.
We could submit, if you would, you can submit your recommendations and your changes and your paragraphs and whatnot to Mr. Addis.
We'll format it up and have it available. We can pick and choose and get it
Don't you
done.
not like emails?
I hate emails. I only hate emails because I don't think they're very private, but this is a matter that's for open discussion. Email away.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions on this subject? Let's move on. Approval of payment of bills.
I move that we pay the bills in the amount of $153,445.46.
Support.
Been properly moved and supported that we pay the bills in the amount of $153,445.46. Any questions on the motion?
So is it really a law that we have to maintain the railroad's signals on their behalf?
It absolutely is.
It is.
We pay this bill every year, or something close to it.
Is that when they smooth out the bumps when you hit the track?
The number of times that the train stops on the tracks and they abandon the train overnight because of hitting the hours of, that they worked, it just, to then also have to pay to maintain their track just seems, anyway, sorry.
No, hey, I totally agree with you because we've been trying to get a permit from the railroad for close to 2 years to put the sidewalk across the tracks on Clark Street. And we did the sidewalk, but we had to stop outside their easement. And they have not provided us with a permit to go over the tracks.
Can we withhold payment until they give us a permit?
Put it in escrow.
I'll just throw this in quickly. The power of the railroads in Michigan is extreme. In your no-fault law, the reason that everybody in Michigan carries $1 million of property damages insurance is because the railroads demanded in case you damage one of their crossings. They are a powerful lobby and they rule the world in many ways.
I don't want to lose a hubcap going over those tracks.
I was going to say next to healthcare
Yeah, next to
and attorneys.
Any other questions on the motion? Roll, please.
Trustee Pacoli?
Yes.
Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Callender?
Yes.
Trustee Pymore?
Yes.
Trustee Hessek?
Yes.
President Dilbert?
Yes. Treasury report.
Total village cash assets, $3,275,373.97.
I make a motion that we receive and file the treasurer's report.
Support.
Been properly moved and supported that we receive and file the treasury report. Questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The clerk has a note. June items are due by June 2nd for the June 11th meeting. Unfinished business. Mr. Pacoli, Village to City Committee.
I just got the email yesterday from Mary Charles from the MML. They can do a presentation for us on May 29th, so Wednesday at 6 o'clock. for anybody willing to or wanting to attend. They're basically going to do a presentation on the pros and cons, general pros and cons, the process, and have a Q&A at the end.
Would it be open to the public?
It is. Everything's open.
All of our meetings are, I think.
Well, this is just a presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the meeting is open to the public and they'll be up at the end.
Is it an hour meeting or presentation or how much time do they allot for it?
They allot 3 hours, but Coco allotted 3 hours too, but it doesn't take that long. It's just how long it takes to do their spiel and how many questions we bring and have.
6 p.m.
It's 3 hours. If it goes past 9, bring beer and wine.
There is a cost for this, and I've already told Mr. Procone that, that we're authorizing that cost.
I have a question.
29 at 6 p.m.
What's your question?
I wondered, is there anybody in the planning commission participating in this?
I'm not on planning. I'm
Oh, you're just
ZBA.
eating it.
You are? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and so is our new planning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lucy's part of this.
Lucy's part of it too.
Yeah.
Oh, Lucy is too, okay, good. Oh, good.
She's everywhere.
Surprise. I just, purely.
Mr. Procone, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Wait.
Maybe. I have to apologize. Last month, I wasn't available the first half of the month, and then somebody went to Vegas. But did you still need us to be?
No.
Because it was the DPW?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay.
So what happened in Vegas?
Nothing.
Stay
I was hoping to catch you,
I'm not that tired, I'm tired.
RFP.
RFP.
Do you want to leave that discussion?
I'm
Were
sorry.
were you just pausing or?
No, I'm.
Okay, so there's been, we've had several conversations about the Clark Street property, putting an RFP out. And I think we should either decide if we're going to move forward with that or end the conversations about it, basically. I approached Mr. Dilbert about what can I do to get things going. And he said you had things prepared already, or you knew the information
I
needed?
knew where I could get some of the information.
Okay.
I think part of that conversation was that we had voted to put together an RFP, but we never stipulated what we wanted the RFP to state.
Okay.
And so we can't really put it out there until we as a council agree on what we want potential builders to come in and do. So like set timelines from like when they purchase the property to when they break ground, the rate at which we want them building, so how many units per year, I think was the conversation. I don't know if we can even set minimum building standards, but that may be something, that we look at so that they're not throwing up, $150,000 houses just for the sake of throwing up houses. But we need to, if we're going to put it out as an RFP instead of just a regular real estate transaction, I think the conversation was that we need to know specifically and be on a semi-united front how we actually want that proposed.
Based on the minimum building requirements, so it would still have to fall under our current
It's
ordinances. We would not be able, I don't think we would be able to change that.
Right, you couldn't go below the minimum standards for the zoning. Like zoning has a grid that says like if it's on this size lot, it has to be a minimum square footage of X, but we could over exceed that to say like,
Can we over exceed that,
Yeah, we can.
or wouldn't that would need a word I can't think
as
of.
long as it still falls within zoning, you should be
Yeah.
able to.
Well, there's some things that you can do, but you gotta be careful because, while, put my lawyer hat on there.
Anybody with that?
What is the question?
The current building standards require, I think the minimum for a house is 900 square feet or 800, 850, something like that.
Wait a minute.
Okay. we don't want anything on that scale. Can we put in place language on this particular piece of property with an increased minimum?
I believe you can, but the more proper way to do it would to make that a different standard and pass it like you do any other requirement, any other, and attach it and have it run with the land forever.
With
Okay.
this particular
Right.
piece?
This
Right.
particular piece of property.
Right.
Don't make it attackable legally. You do it in the proper set. The board can set whatever standards the board wants to set. But if you do it, for instance, in this particular area, we're going to amend the zoning ordinance to say it's now this much land, and then it runs with the property forever.
And because of how we're doing this with the RFP on this particular piece of property, I'm sure that we can be able to do that.
My personal opinion, from a builder's perspective, with the amount of money that has to go into the underground, they're highly unlikely to build 950 square feet of houses anyways, to actually cash out on that development. But to be able to put in something that says that if we sell it to them, they're not gonna sit on it for 10 years and sell it to another builder who doesn't build, I think is wise.
And we don't want them to build something that's going to depreciate Pembroke or Amherst either.
Yeah.
Now, could we put in that ordinance that they must have a public space within the development, like a park, or we have a nature trail in Decorah Park, I think we have a nature trail. But they have the pool at Amherst. Every development has a community amenity in it. Could that be included? That they have to provide a public space?
They have to anyways, just from this, like,
The zone.
in general, they have to provide green space. So the current proposed plating used to have a pool, it doesn't anymore, it was removed, but there's 2 green spaces plus some wetland allowances.
Okay.
So and one of them specifically was designated to be a park, I believe it was originally proposed with like a playscape in the front area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then why don't we do this, okay? Submit your suggestions. Submit your suggestions to me as to what you would like in this RFP. And, we will put it together and we'll bring it back.
Chris, can you give us a date that you'd like us to do
Yeah,
that
we
by?
took it out. Yeah.
Couple weeks.
Is this something, would it be wise to maybe kick this to planning too, to come up with the minimums and run it through the planner and see how?
I have a conversation with the planner, but I won't get the plan just yet. Let's see what we put together, and, 'cause we want to make sure that it's all legal,
Okay.
because we want to be able to withstand any challenge.
Now, before we post the RFP though, should we get the ordinance in place to amend the ordinance for that? Do we amend the ordinance for that piece of property?
We're not going to post this.
Oh, okay.
No, we're just going to put it together, formulate it, and then I'm going to bring it back to this board.
Okay.
But then to your point, I think separately, we're going to want an ordinance that,
Regulate it at the same time.
Yeah, kind
Oh,
of.
at the
Yeah,
same
we
time?
decide to do
Okay,
Yeah.
because they could come back and say, you don't have the authority.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So just give me all your suggestions within the next couple of weeks. Planning Commission update.
The planning commission met last week. 2 important items were Basic Metals put in a request for some aluminum storage. That was granted, and we voted and passed to adopt all the new ordinances. Now, you can have at your table from the chair listing all of that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the next step is in this process.
It's my understanding that the Planning Commission has gone through the ordinance changes. I think they're concentrating on the sign ordinance.
Yep, we're all set with that now.
And in the Planning Commission, there's also a recommendation that we adopt a new sign ordinance. And I see we have a letter here from the county planner.
Now, has everyone received a copy of all the proposed changes? Did you guys get that final piece?
This,
Yeah. like I said, I reached out and to find out what is our next step here, but I haven't gotten that information yet. So probably at this point, I would just say, this is what we've done, and then that will come probably next month, because council is gonna have to approve that, and then it's gonna have to be publicized, correct?
So, on the sign side, because we're in the middle right now of enforcing our sign ordinance,
You're gonna be until we post it, or no, public notice.
yeah, until we publish it.
I know the code enforcement officer has reached out to a number of us asking what should I do, and our advice was you just carry on with the current way.
So are you suggesting that we table this until next month?
Well, that's up to you guys. I know the information. I mean, I worked on it, but are you guys comfortable not seeing the changes?
I personally am not, and I guess my next question is gonna be, how come we have not received the changes? I totally thought that Jeff was gonna give us something.
Okay,
The old, the new,
right,
you can see what it was, and this is what it is, first,
right.
And then I was informed today or yesterday that he did not make these recommendations. And so I think it caught a few people off guard.
I think it could come from the committee chair. I think that it's appropriate representing the committee. But you guys still don't have the information, so I don't think I'm even comfortable, to be honest with you. This has to be tabled until you guys all have the information.
We don't know what it was, and we don't know what you're changing it to.
Specifically, the PUD portion was pulled out because we're still working on that specific piece.
Okay.
I think
What does the table think?
I think there was a portion that we had brought a portion of the zoning changes, maybe not all of.
This is a pretty big batch, because this covers general administrative changes, heavy industrial, light industrial, office district, the sign changes, so there's quite a bit there.
Yeah, I'd have to go back in our meeting minutes. I know there was a batch that I brought forward when I was on the planning commission, and that we did approve.
Yeah, we did.
And then we agreed not to publish yet, just
Till
till
we got the rest.
Right, so I think there's just the only gap would be just what is it that planning has done since then, and we just gotta bring that part forward. And then once we go through with that, then the idea was that we would do a mass publish all at once.
Sure. Okay. So, I think, are you suggesting, or am I hearing you, that we should just table this and just
We should pause.
to give the planning commission a chance to put together a packet that they can send out to council so we can see the old and the new?
Everything that we've done that's gonna,
Yeah.
because at this point we'll publish, or are we gonna wait a little bit longer?
Okay. Okay.
And we're still working on the master plan.
Is the board good with that?
So we're
Okay.
tabling, we'll review, and then we'll publish.
We will vote.
Yes.
But, I
because
mean, we won't be publishing anything before.
No, we can't until it's adopted by council.
And if council adopts it, it's already gone through public comments, through planning, so
Correct.
it's already had the public,
Because I know Mr. Addison's office has been working with the planning commission on,
yeah.
because there's a Supreme Court case out there that has forced the planning commission to
Yep.
pull back parts of the sign ordinance.
Right.
Okay. Mrs. Bankowski, you still on?
I'm done.
You're
Thank
done.
you.
Mr. Haziak?
So Parks and Rec update. As mentioned last meeting, River Day is still for June 8th. I believe the Shook drain was already cleaned, so we're gonna focus probably on that stretch of the Salt River that goes from Amherst to across the
Good stretch.
Yeah, it's pretty beat up.
That's beat up.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. Music in the Park is going to be the first, second, and fourth Fridays in July and the first Friday in August. bike rack should be completed by Memorial Day. They're at least pouring the concrete. Yeah, and though they're already put together, they're just gonna be bolted down. So those will be in Fountain and Community Park. 150th update, real brief. We do need more sponsors. I know we talked about the money thing last meeting. Food trucks are set. I believe the meetings are set. You guys do these meetings on Thursday. I can never make it, so I'm always going off of what Jen tells me.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, I was gonna do it during the call from the table, but since we're on.
Yeah, if you don't mind. No, go ahead.
Okay, so we have the food trucks set up, we have concession stands, a concession vendor that has about 10 to 20 vendors lined up. We also have, the bounce house, we have a number of the artists that we've set up for Friday and Saturday. We're looking at doing I'm gonna butcher the title of it, was it Miss New Haven, Miss Teen New Haven?
Right, right.
That we'll be doing again this year. I did receive from Mrs. Rozick on our last meeting that we just had this past Thursday. I received the itemized list of where all the monies are being given to. In respecting the clerk's deadline for the items, I wasn't able to get it to this meeting. So I will itemize it, put it together, and have it submitted for the June meeting, which is real close to the deadline of the event happening in July, but we will have that for them, for you all to review, and then hopefully get the approval for all the funding and all that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Funds are coming in, but it's slowly.
We are still waiting on a sponsor for the fireworks.
Yes. Yes.
And that has been delaying our advertising of the event because we can't advertise until we know exactly whether or not we have a sponsor for the fireworks. That's it.
I think that's all I got. That capped it off. Their events can be posted on the news, on our new site, because it's going to have a Parks and Rec tab, if I read that right. So other than that, that's it for Parks and Rec.
How much were the fireworks last year?
I think the actual cost was about $8,000.
Did Lennox go in with us on that?
Yes.
Lennox.
Yes, and Lennox has agreed to participate this year also if we can't find, we're hoping to find one sponsor of the fireworks.
Correct. If we don't find that one sponsor, then they are willing to
Yes.
help with the funding.
Yes.
They just, rightfully so, they don't want to help and then it be somebody else's fireworks show.
What is the deadline for advertising before?
Well, we want to start, we've put a couple ads in, there's a new magazine that's going out called Lake Shore. And you may have seen it. It's in this area. So we got an ad, there's an ad in that magazine for the 150th. The county magazine called Momentum. We put an ad in that magazine. I think that reaches about 50,000 houses. So we put an ad in that magazine also.
The other one was 5,000. The other was 5,000 circular.
Yeah.
We're updating the village website right now, we're in the process of that.
You guys are stealing all my thunder. I was
Because-
going to have that to call for the table as well.
Right now, when you go to Parks and Rec and look up the 150th, it gives the meeting dates for the 2018 planning,
I will refer that over.
which ends in November.
Okay.
We do have the 150th meeting dates posted on the front door.
Okay. Mr. Hayes, were you
I'm good. On Parks and Rec. Code enforcement?
code enforcement?
Yeah, so just to echo what was said at the last meeting, our new code enforcement officer is doing a fantastic job. A lot of things have been happening. He was gone for a month too, and a lot of things have been taking place. In fact, Saturday morning, we did another drive through the village, and there's just a lot happening. I mean, he's really, it's pretty impressive. A lot of stuff that's been a problem for quite a long time is being taken care of. there's a lot of, these had a lot of good reception to it. And it's just, it's a really good thing. I know you mentioned the sign ordinance. He just did something with that today as far as signs on Gratiot. So I know he is using what we currently have. But obviously the updated one would be, best. But yeah, I don't really have anything too specific, but just some of the houses along Clark and some of the things that have been kind of dormant for quite a while, they're picking up the pace. There's still a lot to be done, but it's really seen some movement. It's pretty good.
Even the leaning garage
It's gone.
is gone.
But the funeral home?
Next to Haven
No,
Place.
across the
street.
yeah.
Yeah, that's gone. You saw that one house on New Haven Street, they're digging a big trench around it, they're getting that all squared away. That house on Clark's getting cleaned up, they put a new ridge cap on it, I mean, it's moving.
I have to echo, I messaged him today because I thought, like, it's Norm at the corner, and I saw a big, like, for sale sign in front of Norm's building, so I thought it was up for sale, but I couldn't find it anywhere on the MLS, so I messaged and said, hey, is Norm selling the building? He's not, he's just advertising his real estate services. But it was 20 minutes, I had a response, and I think 10 minutes past that, he had cited Norm for the temporary sign.
You're red and black.
Emails and communication has never been as weak since.
No.
To put that,
If I could echo that sentiment, I do want to just say too that, I know we only have so many representatives from HOAs and the subdivisions here, but the code enforcement officer does a really good job of working with at least my HOA. And, between the HOA and code enforcement, it's really been, we've seen a lot. The code enforcement officer gets a lot more teeth than the HOA does. Gets a better response. So I would definitely encourage subdivisions to use the code enforcement officer as well.
There's a post that's going out, and as soon as I get a chance to read it, I can get a chance early to read it before it's actually put on the website. And it's kind of a generic, I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I have to bring that up.
That talks about, cut your grass,
Property maintenance.
do all these little things so that I don't have to come see you. You know what you need to do. Do it. So he had put it, just put it together and he sent it to me. And so, which I think is a great idea. So we can, we'll put it on the website, put it on the Facebook page. I'm sure it'll be shared so that people can see. Look, the grass is 18 inches tall. Cut it. Yes, we've had a lot of rain. Trust me, I'm struggling. But yeah, so I think that's a great idea that, he's putting out this list of just basic, everyday housekeeping items,
That's I meant to bring that up because he was asking who was currently updating the site, who was doing that, because he wasn't, obviously for you, for approval, but he wasn't sure, who was going to put it up, so that's good.
Alrighty. Call from the floor.
I just want to say I love New Haven. And even though we moved here in '67, and I always said I was from New Haven, though even technically I was in Lennox. But I've been in the village for 12 years. When I moved here, my water bill was $64, $68 for 3 months. I did come up and ask about that readiness to serve item, but I guess everybody has that. Now my bill has been $83 1 month, and I'm questioning why 4 times. And my big question is the debt. It used to be paid every 3 months. Now it's paid every. Are we paying it off faster, and why? When rates are low. And my other question is about: did we revisit the cost of this building and what we're paying on that when everyone was revisiting everything? And those days seem to be gone. Anyway, I hope to be on the agenda next month, and I just wanted to give you a heads up of what I'm looking for. Thank you. And this was amazing. The last meeting, and I agree, it was quite a while ago, the room was full. I had to leave early that night, and my son stayed, and apparently the police were called, so there was but geez, to have nobody, I mean, I have no clue. Anyway, God bless New Haven.
President Gordon, we asked her just to introduce herself and for those.
Oh,
that
yes,
don't know.
yes.
Oh, yes.
State your name for the record.
If you could just introduce yourself for those of us that
Oh,
don't.
yes, Christine Berger, BERGER. All my kids went to school here. We moved here when my first one, so we would go kindergarten all the way through. Okay, so they're all there.
I know the family. Just her sons, when we did the rehab in the community center, her sons did the ceilings, and they donated their labor. So I know who you are. I've been there forever.
You're the only person, I mean, I used to know Glenn Chambers, but that's
Yeah.
it's okay, we got the same name.
Call from the floor.
You got her email requesting some, from federal withholding form, please.
Oh.
Thank you, Mario. You gave it to us. And you too.
So we have to, even if we don't want any changes?
That is correct. I don't have no, I need updated, excuse me.
Let's see, I read it as if there was a change to get it back.
So I did originally, and then I reread it, and it was like, can you return within, so it's like in my bag.
There's been it's been a while since they've been updated in your files.
Yeah, can we get a new one, we tossed them.
Google it. I want to Google it. Can you please send it back? I'll send it back.
You got a couple in there, spares? Send me another, I'll send it back.
Call from the floor. We need to go into closed session, hopefully briefly.
I make a motion that we go into closed session at 8:37.
Support.
Probably moving and supported that we go into closed session. Any questions on the motion?
We have to do a roll call.
Roll, please.
Trustee Myson?
Yes.
Trustee Pine?
Yep.
Trustee McCauley?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Hatchett?
Yes.
President Diller?
Yes.
Trustee Bukowski?
Yes.
President Gilbert, should we do a call from the table and then go to closed session so that they can?
We can.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't, so everybody's going to go.
Call from the table.
Okay, real quick before we go to closed session, we already just covered the 150th update, again, July 19th and July 20th. I also wanted to give an update, revise the website progress. We have gotten our formal website design. We went back to them with some updates, and they've provided another design for us to review. Myself and Mrs. Roslick has been reviewing it. So we're going to go through and then submit another update or whatnot to approve it. If anybody is interested in reviewing the website design, please feel free to reach out to me. In the topic of the website in general, just because it sounds like there may be some questions about who's updating the website. Mrs. Roslick is the one that's responsible for our website. So if there's anything you want updated or added or changed, we can reach out to her.
Wasn't sure if that was still her.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Call from the table.